We are in a park where two children are building a sandcastle. The boy says that he doesn't think it looks right. He says that it's not how he wanted it to be. The girl starts laughing at this. Just then, a bigger boy steps on the sandcastle and destroys it, while also making fun of them. After destroying the castle, he tells them both to go somewhere else, which makes the girl start crying seeing the castle she built with her hard work scattered. The boy stands up ready to face the bully. Our hero says to get off the sandcastle, but hearing this, the bully gets angry and asks what he said. The boy angrily says to take his foot off the castle. Seeing the seriousness on our hero's face, the bully gets a little scared but still tries to act tough. Then suddenly, a foot appears like a shadow in front of his eyes, and in a magnificent acrobatic move, the hero lands a powerful kick on his nose. The bully falls to the ground from this blow, while the hero remains ready for the next potential fight. The bully slowly gets up and cleans his nose, only to realize that it's bleeding. Seeing this, he gets even angrier, but instead of taking revenge, he starts crying and calling for help. Seeing this, the hero is astonished, while his friend hides behind him in fear. A few minutes later, the bully returns with his older brother, with a bandage on his nose, and asks if he was the one who hit him. The hero just stares seriously at the older brother, which annoys him. The older brother tries to force him to answer, but the hero dodges him every time, making him even more annoyed. He had never learned martial arts, but when the older brother tries to catch him, the hero easily escapes his grasp. Suddenly, the hero gets an opportunity and lands a kick between the older brother's legs, which scares the younger bully. At that moment, the younger bully complains to the hero about why he did that to his brother. The hero says that even though he never learned martial arts, he has always been a fighter. Although he didn't care about these childhood fights, it became a problem when he grew up. A few years later, the hero was in the 5th grade at Moon Elementary School. One day, while going to school, some high school boys call him into an alley. A high school boy, Austin, asks him to do a job. His intentions seemed suspicious from his appearance. Then he puts his hand on the hero's shoulder and says that he too was once a student at Moon Elementary School. He slowly pushes the hero into the alley where his friends are standing. One of his friends mocks him, saying he has a good talent for trapping boys. Meanwhile, a girl tells him to hurry up. Austin asks the hero if he will help them. The hero looks back at him and asks what they want from him. Hearing this question, Austin gets annoyed. The hero retorts, asking if high school boys have become so poor that they have to ask children for money. Hearing this, Austin's friends start laughing at him, which angers Austin. He tries to deal with the hero alone, but the hero knew how to defend himself. Seeing the hero's skill at constantly dodging, the girl starts speaking in his support. Seeing this, the rest of the boys also come forward to help Austin. But just then, the hero lands a powerful blow with his knee on Austin's chin, causing him to fall to the ground. After this, the hero looks at the others to see what they will do. Then another boy comes forward and punches the hero in the face, sending the hero skidding across the ground. Seeing this, another high school boy gets angry and resolves to teach the hero a lesson. But the hero says that he never felt fear, nor did he think about what would happen next. Then he picks up a brick from the ground and says that he knows very well what he has to do. After this, he strikes the boy's head hard with the brick, causing him to fall to the ground. Now 2 boys are lying down and the rest of the boys are looking at the hero in shock. Austin, whom they considered the strongest boy in school, was now lying on the ground with his head bleeding. Seeing this, the rest of the boys go crazy and pounce on the hero to take revenge. But the hero was also ready. He moves towards them with the brick in his hand and says that he likes being this way and that he never loses any fight. The girl present in the group was in shock, while the person standing next to her was trembling with fear, begging for help. The hero's hand held the brick, which was completely covered in blood from his attacks. When the hero turned towards the girl to find out what she was going to do, he looked at her with such a terrifying gaze that she froze. A few minutes later, at the police station, the officer asked him if he was really serious that he did all this. But the boy just sat there silently, leaving the officer waiting for an answer. Just then, a woman wearing a coat rushed into the room. She apologized to the officer, but the officer said that everything was fine. Still, he was a bit uncomfortable with the situation. After this, both of them walked out of the police station without saying anything. The woman looked at her son carefully and asked if he was injured, to which he shook his head no. Then she bent down to talk to Seth and asked him to make a promise, which confused him. His mother asked him to promise that he would not fight with anyone anymore. Seth nodded in agreement and said that he had no other choice because he did not want to see that sadness in his mother's eyes again. His mother thanked him for making the promise, but Seth recalled that at that time, he did not know the truth about why she was sad. Time passed, and Seth reached middle school. One day, a boy came in, kicking the door open loudly, and started calling for Seth as if he had come to fight him. As soon as he entered the room, he kicked Seth hard in the back and asked if he liked jokes. The impact of that kick made Seth hit the wall. The boy warned him that he should just follow his orders, and if he needed money, he should ask someone else. Seth gets angry and thinks about taking revenge, but then he stops and just apologizes. But just then, the boy slams his head on the ground and warns him not to let this happen again. He even says that if Seth wants to stay out of trouble, he should be careful around him. After giving the warning, the boy leaves the room. His friends surround him and look at Seth, laughing. Our hero, trembling with anger, makes a fist. Then he takes a deep breath and tells himself that he did well not to react. Upon reaching home, his mother looks at him carefully and senses something. She worked at a restaurant. She asked Seth about school, and he just said that school was good. Then he asks how the restaurant business is going, and she replies that everything is going very well. Seth thinks that he just wants to see a smile on his mother's face, no matter what. But just then, a black car pulls up in front of the restaurant. When they go outside to see what is happening, they see that several cars have stopped there, and some men are getting out of them. In their hands was a funeral portrait with a picture of a man, and they announced that the person was no longer in this world. Hearing this, his mother is shocked and starts crying loudly. Seth looks at his mother in panic and asks what is happening. Then he turns back to look at the picture and remembers that something had happened with that person on the same day. Time passes, and we see at Yan High School that there are many rumors spreading about a new student. The other students were curious about his identity. When the student got close to the classroom door, the teacher announced him and asked the students to help him. At the same time, the student enters the classroom and introduces himself as Seth Kang. The girls start looking at him, realizing that he is quite attractive, while one of them finds the name familiar. But when the constant whispering in the classroom doesn't stop, the teacher scolds them and tells everyone to be quiet. Some boys sitting at the back of the class were looking at him with a strange smile. Then one of them notices something, and his friend asks him what happened. That boy also recognizes Seth and thinks that this is a very big coincidence. Seth introduces himself to the whole class, and the teacher tells him to sit in the empty seat at the back of the class. He moves towards his seat and sits next to a boy with spiky hair who was in a deep sleep. When Seth looks to the side, he finds that some boys are looking at him with the same mischievous smile. Seth gives a slight smile upon recognizing them, realizing those boys used to go to his old high school. During the lunch break, one of those boys comes to Seth and says that they were very sad when Seth transferred high schools. Then the other boys surround him and say that this school year is going to be a lot of fun. But Seth just gives a faint smile which annoys the boy, who asks, "Don't you remember who I am?" The hero says that he can never forget who he is, and as he says this, he shows an empty and lifeless smile. Seeing his face, the boy gets scared and his friend gets angry and asks Seth if he has gone mad. At the same time, the boy who had been sleeping until now suddenly speaks up and tells everyone to be quiet. He lifts his head a little and, with a deeply tired look, asks if they can't see that he wants to sleep. Seeing this, the bully gets even more scared and quickly apologizes to him. After avoiding a fight with the sleepy boy, the bully stands up and says that he hasn't finished his point yet. Seth turns to his sleepy classmate and looks at him but doesn't understand anything. Just then, the door opens with a shake, and a very elderly teacher walks slowly towards his desk. He tries to start the class but suddenly gets confused and forgets what the topic of the day's study was. Meanwhile, the bully is still angry, thinking that Seth left him without an answer and plans to take revenge on him. When he looks towards Seth, he is looking out the window, where his sleepy classmate is also sitting. Seth looks at the day's weather with a slight smile. On the other side, a girl was watching him from afar. She thinks that this is the same boy she met in her childhood, but as soon as Seth's eyes fall on her, she gets nervous and quickly looks the other way. Seth gets confused, thinking if she also knows him, but then he ignores it and starts looking towards the window, thinking that this could be interesting. After a while, he feels so relaxed that he also starts to feel sleepy. Just then, the boy with spiky hair wakes up, and at the same time, Seth rests his head on the table and falls asleep. The golden-haired boy looks at him, and after thinking for a moment, walks out of the room. The bully understands that this is the right opportunity to take revenge on Seth. He gathers his friends and moves towards the sleeping Seth's desk. But just then, someone came to stop them. The girl who had recognized Seth stands in front of the bullies so that they cannot go near Seth. Seeing this, the bully gets annoyed and says that now it's his turn, but the girl firmly says that they cannot have any fight in the class. The bully says that he doesn't care about it and tells her to get out of the way, but the girl fearlessly says that as the class representative, she will not let them do as they please. At the same time, Seth's hand comes on the girl's shoulder. He says that although he appreciates her help, he wants her to step back. Our hero addresses the bullies as his high school friends and asks if they missed him because he missed his classmates a lot. He seems excited for a fight, while the class representative looks at him in surprise. Then Seth starts to tell about his life. He says that when he was young, he held himself back because of his mother. Hearing this, the bully starts to feel something strange, but then he remembers what his father had said, that he should not let anyone dominate him. A few minutes later, the golden-haired boy returns to the classroom and sees that something seems to have changed there. He sees that the bullies are no longer there. Then he goes and sits in his place while Seth is sleeping deeply as before. The class representative tries to look at Seth without turning her head, while the golden-haired boy bows his head and goes back to sleep. Then she looks at Seth, who is sleeping without a care. Meanwhile, a boy asks the bullies how they lost to a transfer student. This boy looked quite scary and was looking at the bullies. He asks to confirm their story, while the bully feels like asking for help. The bully Nathan has a bandage on his nose and says that Seth was weak in the old high school, but now something has changed in him. Then he remembers how Seth had taken them all down in a single blow. A bigger boy who was standing there scolds the bully, Nathan, saying that he should be ashamed of losing to a weak person. Then that boy goes straight to their classroom and, peeking in through the window, asks if there is a transfer student there. After that, he pushes the door open forcefully and, standing in front of the whole class, starts speaking. He wanted to know who the new student was. The class representative is shocked to see who has come this time and starts to wonder who it could be. Nathan points out that he is sitting next to Victor, while the hero is still sleeping. Then he says that he will welcome the new student and starts moving towards him. The class representative thinks why this boy has come here. Although the big boy tries to talk to Seth, Seth gives no response. Seeing this, he gets even more annoyed. Finally, Seth slowly lifts his head. He is still sleepy. The big boy says that he will take care of him and then introduces himself as the goblin of Jung's high school. He says, "You must have heard of me." At that moment, Goblin starts to look carefully at Seth's face. He feels something familiar and thinks if they have met before. Our hero asks what he is saying, and then they both recognize each other. It turns out that Goblin was the same bully who had broken his sandcastle in childhood. As soon as he remembers this, Seth gets excited and asks how he is and how his brother is. But he doesn't realize that Goblin is drenched in a cold sweat. Goblin tries to hide his fear and just says that he will meet him later. Seth smiles and says, "Okay," and Goblin leaves the room. Nathan stops him and asks why he is not solving Seth's problem, but then he sees the nervousness on Goblin's face. Goblin tells him to move aside. Nathan doesn't understand anything and asks again if he will not resolve this matter. But Goblin again tells him to move aside. Then he leaves from there and Nathan is left stunned. Seth returns to his old neighborhood and feels at home. Meanwhile, Goblin calls his older brother. On the other side, at Seth's mother's restaurant, she asks how everything is going at school. Seth says that he is having fun, and his mother immediately asks about his promise. Seth says that he remembers that he will not fight with anyone unless someone hits him first. His mother gets worried, and he says that he has to leave for class. As soon as he comes out of the restaurant, a man calls him boss. Seth reminds him that he should not say that and that he had already told him not to say it. But the man again calls him boss. Seth repeats again that he should not say it anymore. Then, as soon as he gets into the car, he tells the driver to drive quickly, and his mother keeps watching them from a distance. Back at school, Seth is sleeping in the classroom next to Victor. Hours pass, and classes keep ending, but Seth just keeps sleeping with his head on the table. The representative girl keeps staring at him, while the other boys are talking here and there. Just then, the physical education teacher opens the door. the representative girl tells everyone to stand up. The teacher is already enthusiastic, but when he looks back, he finds 2 students sleeping. Seeing this, he gets angry. All the students get worried. Angrily, the teacher goes to the back of the class and pulls Seth and Victor up by their ears. He complains to Victor, saying that he let him go last time only because he was busy with other things. As for Seth, the teacher doesn't recognize him and asks who he is. The representative girl raises her hand and tells him that Seth is the transfer student. Since they were sleeping in class, the teacher sends both of them to the running field. In the field, both of them look around and complain about this punishment. The teacher tells them to run 3 rounds, with the condition that whoever finishes first will get an exemption from that day's punishment, while the loser will feel as if his birth was in vain. Both of them stand without any particular interest, but the teacher shouts and demands an answer. Seth gets ready to obey the order. Victor starts running, and the teacher tells Seth to start quickly too. Initially, Seth runs without any enthusiasm, but then he says that losing would be shameful. Hearing this, Victor gets excited and increases his speed. Victor and Seth both increase their speed and try to leave each other behind. In no time, they both start running like the wind. The teacher is surprised to see that Seth's speed is equal to Victor's. Both of them look at each other while running like 2 children trying to beat each other. After the race is over, both are tired. Victor looks at Seth with curiosity, while Seth thinks that this will be fun. Meanwhile, the teacher is still amazed that someone can reach Victor's level. The next day, the final round of the national team fighting selection competition was going on. It was an open weight category fight. A golden-haired man was bragging that he was very close to joining the team because he just had to fight one more competitor. But his opponent was a huge boy who was looking at him from behind with a strange aura. All the spectators were worried, while the boy seemed annoyed by the man's comment because he had talked so much, yet he couldn't last in the fight and had already lost. After the fight, the competitor, Brock Chang, returns to his locker room to rest, but then Goblin arrives there. Brock asks what he is doing there. Goblin says that the boy from the past who defeated them when they were young has returned. Hearing this, Brock gets scared and starts trembling. He sits down, which surprises his brother. Back at school, Seth and Victor are sent to the counseling room by the teacher, who warns them not to sleep in his class. Then he asks Victor when his next competition is. Victor says that he hasn't registered yet. The teacher explains that if he wants to become a professional, he should focus on it. Then he turns to Seth and asks if he is on any team. Seth doesn't understand, so the teacher clarifies that he is asking about athletic teams. Seth says that he is not participating in any team. Hearing this, the teacher gets disappointed because he sees great talent in Seth, but still he sends them back to class. When they return to the classroom, the elderly teacher tells them to sit in their places. Both of them look at the teacher, then look at each other, lie back down, and go to sleep. Later that afternoon, Brock comes to the school to find Seth. The news spreads among everyone that Brock is back in school, which makes all the boys cautious. Brock goes towards the student council room, where the president asks him if he has come back again. Meanwhile, Seth is sleeping in his class, and Victor has already prepared to leave. Victor runs past Brock. Brock calls him Broomhead and asks about his class, but Victor ignores him. Angrily, Brock grabs Victor's shirt and forces him to answer. Victor warns him that if he doesn't let him go, he will have to regret it. Brock laughingly asks if Victor doesn't know who he is. Victor clearly says that he has no information about it, which annoys Brock even more. At that moment, Victor suddenly punches Brock on the chin, which loosens his grip on his shirt. After that, Victor starts throwing a series of fast punches. Brock extends his hand and grabs Victor's neck, starting to press it. He asks Victor if that's all he can do. He admits that Victor has strength but introduces himself, saying that he will finish him unless someone stops him. Just then, he turns around and finds the PE teacher standing there, who asks him if he is fighting again. Seth is leaving the school and sees all this, which makes him wonder what is happening in this school. However, he didn't know that all this was happening because of him. Meanwhile, a meeting was being held in the student council room. President Jason Chin says that everyone knows why they have gathered here. He says that Brock is back, and although no one knows the real reason, he will surely create some trouble. He introduces Brock as the National Youth Featherweight Boxing Champion. He says that the PE teacher stopped the fight between them. A council member asks why Brock came back and thinks that maybe he just wants to create more trouble. This member was Gabe, the captain of the Taekwondo club, who was thinking that Brock should have been preparing for the Nationals. But then someone replies that this is also Brock's school, so he doesn't need a reason. Gabe asks if they are trying to say that Brock was missing school. Jason asks Sam if he knows anything about Brock's return since they have known each other since childhood. Sam says that Brock said something like he came to get the new boy, although he doesn't know the real reason for it. Hearing this, Jason gets even more confused about Brock's real intentions. The meeting continues, and at the same time, Seth leaves the school and is ready to go home. He notices that a black car is parked, and its driver is sleeping. He wakes up the driver and shouts a little, then both of them leave for home. From a distance, the class representative, Sophie, sees Seth getting into the car. The driver asks Seth if he is going to some place again, and he confirms it. That night, they pass by his mother's restaurant and see her working. Then Seth tells the driver to move on. They reach the building of a company called Sunshine Group. At the entrance, a man greets him as boss. Seth gets out of the car, where his employees greet him. Seeing this, he gets annoyed. There's a flashback where our hero is standing in the rain in front of his father's grave. He looks at the photo on the grave. Just then, a tall man comes with an umbrella and tells him to leave from there because it was getting cold. Our hero asks him what kind of person his father was. The man replies that his father had achieved the status of being the most powerful man only with his fists. Seth asks about his mother and also why his father was never around him. The man explains that his older brother always took care of him. He also says that sometimes his father would leave his work just to see him. When Seth is surprised to hear this, his uncle recalls his father's last words. His father had said to never let anyone defeat you because it would be shameful. Then they remember how they had watched from a distance as Seth was being bullied by his fellow children at school. Back at school, President Jason goes to the hero's classroom with his companions and asks everyone to wait outside. He enters the room and immediately sees two mischievous students sleeping, while the rest of the students are worried by his presence. Sophie is impressed by the president's visit, while her friend thinks that maybe changing classes would be a good idea. Jason greets Sophie, and when she asks what he is doing there, he asks who the new student is. Sophie asks if he did something wrong, but Jason says that he only wants to ask him some questions. At the same time, Seth suddenly wakes up and makes a noise, which draws everyone's attention to him. As soon as Seth's eyes fall on Jason, he is told to come to the student council room, but he first asks who Jason is, which worries Sophie. Before she can explain about Jason, our hero asks her if they can talk right here. Jason slowly starts to lose his patience and tells him straight away to come outside with Victor. Before leaving, Sophie says that the president is a good person and Seth should do what he is saying. Then he wakes up Victor and tells him what happened. Hearing this, Victor suddenly gets up and drops his chair, thinking what has happened to everyone. He moves towards the student council room, while Seth tells him to stop. Just then, he notices that the class representative is looking at him. To calm her, he gives a slight smile and says that he will be back. Then he follows Victor. In the student council room, Victor drags his chair inside, places it properly, and as soon as he sits down, he asks why he was called there. Jason adjusts his glasses and, coming straight to the point, asks if they know Brock Chang. Both get confused, but then Victor starts to remember the previous fight. Jason explains that until 2 years ago, this school was only for athletes. The government had sent the most talented players from all over the country to study here. Victor asks why he was here if everyone already knew this story, while our hero had no information about it. Jason further explains that now it is just an ordinary school, and the reason for this is Brock, who created a lot of problems here and then left. But now he is back in search of the new boy, which makes everyone curious. The president asks what the relationship is between Seth and Brock. Seth remains silent for a while and then says that he knows nothing about Brock Chang, which confuses everyone even more. Meanwhile, in the counseling room, the teacher is talking to Brock. He says that he has heard that Brock is on the national team. Then he asks that if this was his dream, then why doesn't he look happy? Brock just stands up and says that he is leaving. The teacher stops him to give some final advice and says to never leave sports no matter what. But Brock just glares at him and walks out of the room without saying anything, closing the door behind him.